Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mantra podcast, where we will delve deeper into another industry to find out what next. Today, we have a very special guest from US who has 20 plus years of experience in the automotive industry, Tim Colbeck, currently President and CEO of Oreo North America, an exclusive provider of Saab OE parts and service in North America and caretaker of Saab Cars brand legacy. Tim started his career with Subaru of America, where he led the sales group as senior vice president, laying down the foundation for long term growth, which led to a string of record sales and profits. At Oreo, he led all aspects of the startup and development of the company from its inception in 2012 and continue to grow and diversify their product portfolio and customer base. Thank you for joining us today, Tim.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Also joining us is our very own CEO of Mantra Labs, Parag Sharma, a 2002 IIT Kanpur alumnus. He has been instrumental in successfully building and scaling Mantra Labs from its humble beginnings to 250 plus strong team it is today. A keen technologist at heart, he's focused on bringing to fruition Mantra Labs' vision to be a global leader in bringing customer-centric intelligent experience innovations. Thank you so much for joining us, Parag.
Thank you, Divya.
So, in today's conversation, we will be talking about the global automotive parts and logistics industry and how we can leverage new age technologies to streamline processes and provide better digital experiences to stakeholders. So, let's begin. Tim, I have a question for you first, and I would actually love to know your thoughts, your insights, your perspective on the current global automotive spare parts industry.
Well, it's certainly an interesting time for the global OE parts industry because of the transitions that are going on. We're seeing the emergence of electric vehicles in the market, but also in terms of governing and government mandates. And so this emerging technology is trying to be accelerated by legislature as well. So, we've got a relatively small piece of the market that is growing pretty quickly, but it provides a big challenge because the componentry for the supply chain of an EV is quite different than that of an internal combustion engine. And so, we're kind of in this position where suppliers have to be able to transition and innovate quickly, but right now there's 278 million cars on the road here in the U.S. and they have to be supported too. So you've got your critical mass of ICE type vehicles with your emerging technology of EVs, which leads to challenges both in development of new products, in stocking, storing, and distributing new products. So that in itself is a quite interesting challenge for suppliers, and that's been compounded recently by unforeseen events like the pandemic and now the conflict in Ukraine, which have really impacted supply chains and have people rethinking how they supply, how they reach deep into the supply chain, and some of the just-in-time theories that have been quite efficient and popular have come back to bite some companies who were too lean in inventory, and then when interruptions happen, it becomes quite disruptive.
True. The kind of scenarios that we are having globally are, tough times ahead, but I think a lot of opportunities too. What do you think, Parag? What are your perspectives on this particular industry?
I think I would like to echo and resonate with what Tim has just mentioned. I'll take a step back and start putting dots at almost from a time 2 years back when COVID just started. At that point of time, of course, digitization was on the upswing, but COVID saw massive adoption of digitization. E-commerce grew almost 25% in that period. And with e-commerce, the OEM and the spare parts industry, automotive spare parts industry, also took a giant leap towards e-commerce. I would say it was, of course, already using e-commerce channels to be able to supply its products and services to its customers. But I believe COVID accelerated that movement in a much rapid way. Secondly, that definitely happened, and then we had this problem of increasing the numbers of EVs on the roads in the last 2 years. And as Tim mentioned, their mechanics is quite different from the way the ICEs, the internal combustion engines, work, because in an ICE you would have a much larger number of moving parts in comparison to what an EV engine would require. This, of course, has a lot of challenges and opportunities together for a lot of our spare parts manufacturers and distributors alike. And I think it's up to the industry to really rise to the occasion and come up with new innovative ways of providing services to their customers. Ultimately, it was a lot more products, but with EVs, it would be driven by a lot more services, because products would be on the decline because it won't be as many number of products, but the innovative ways in which we can reach to our customers would definitely see a big jump in innovation. And that's what I am looking forward to.
True, very true. So coming to Saab, Tim, there are a lot of Saab loyalists still out there with the Saab cars, but there are. I mean, it's an industry wherein continuous innovation happens, and people always keep a lookout on what new models are coming in the market in different segments. So what do you think, with newer models coming up by other competitors, it's easy for customers to buy new cars. So how much importance does Oreo lay on digital experiences that might help retain its customer base?
Well, we lean quite heavily on digital experiences. Our business model is an e-commerce model since probably 2015, where we adopted kind of a new customer-facing portal and supply chain management system that allows us to really open our business up to all types of customers and all types of suppliers. And for Saab, that was important because we wanted to make sure that people knew they could get Saab parts, and then if they needed them, could easily find ways to get it. And we kind of have a cross-channel model here because we have a pretty robust digital experience, both for retail customers and our primary customers are B2B, our shops, and for the shops. But ultimately, with Saab vehicles and most historic vehicles, you're going to physically need to be with the car, ultimately with this part, right? So the part either needs to physically arrive at their house or at a shop, and they need to have an appointment and the shop be ready for them when they get there. So we've spent a lot of time connecting our shops and our customers together through our customer portal. We actually have a online concierge service because in all these cross-channel digital initiatives, ultimately they're digital into interpersonal, right? There's going to be somebody delivering that service, and your digital experience is only as good as that last piece where it becomes a physical experience. So we actually have people in our company who help put those two things together, make sure that there's a response to the digital inquiry, the appointments are set up, and the proper parts are going to be there. So it's kind of interesting because we're bridging both sides, but our goal, especially with the B2B customers, has been to put everything at their fingertips in our B2B portal that they do business with us in, and that's been quite successful.
I think that's great to hear because the way we are moving ahead, these kind of services, these kind of digital platforms is what's going to make people's lives easier. So any thoughts on the digital experiences part, Parag? That's something that
I'd
we
like
are
to
at Mantra very
compliment.
passionate about.
Yes, always a topic of great interest to me. In fact, that's what we do day in and day out. I'd like to compliment and compliment Tim on his concierge for digital services for their customers. Um, I'd rather take a more generic stand on it and give you a few examples of what really is happening in industry beyond what Oreo is already doing for its customers. We are already aware of auto repair networks, which tries to bring both the garages, the mechanics, and the customers on the same platform. And at the same time, there are networks like the American Automotive Distribution Networks, who are partnering with companies like RepairPal, for that example, to bring that seamless and digital experience to their end customers. Right, and that's exactly what Tim also mentioned about some of the digital initiatives that he has been taking in the last couple of years at Oreo. But of course, I mean, there is a lot more digital opportunities that need to be explored, and those digital opportunities can be in form of education of the customers, in form of even helping them out with digital solutions for diagnosis of their various spare parts and components, and maybe more imaginative and innovative solutions like using an augmented reality kind of an application that will help the consumer to pinpoint a particular component by just pointing his mobile phone to that component, and then see if there is any problem, or in case if that needs to change, the application can itself help the consumer walk through the process of changing or fixing some of the components that might require some repair. So I think those kind of digital interventions will definitely help drive the engagement for the businesses, and definitely add a lot of value for the consumers, makes it super easy for them to use those products and services.
True. Very, relevant use cases that you have spoken about, Parag. Yeah, another one, a module, or in terms of digital experience that we can talk about. Tim, with several industries, there are a lot of because it's kind of an e-commerce, model. Adopting a subscription mode to engage customers would be something, is it something that Oreo really looks up to, or is it something that they're exploring? And if yes, what kind of omni-channel experiences do you think would be needed by a customer or a buyer?
So for us, with our audience being primarily B2B, who we sell to, we do have a subscription service that is, I'll compare it a little bit to Amazon Prime, where when you're a member with Oreo, you're an official service center, you get benefits, you get better pricing, better shipping terms, you get included technical training, digital technical training, marketing support, and other services that in some cases are available a la carte to a more casual customer, but for subscribers, all of that is included in. And that's a big part of our business model really for several years now, is getting the most engaged customers more engaged through the subscription. And we've kind of tested out a couple of things. I think what Parag was just hitting on was quite interesting, because technology now is allowing you to kind of close the loop of communication between the vehicle, the customer, the manufacturer, and the servicer. And so, your vehicle can communicate that, hey, I have a problem. And they do that all the time, but for older vehicles, you have to go in with the scan tool to see what that problem is. Now the technology exists where you can have something sitting there transmitting those codes out. And we were testing for a little bit and haven't got it to market yet. This dongle that you put in your OBD2 jack that every modern car has that would communicate out the codes. We know the customer, we can call them and say, hey, here's the issue you have, put them in touch with a member of our network and have the parts there. So those types of things make, being a member of our network quite valuable. And so we're exploring those. We haven't come to market yet with that. But the thing with modern cars is that's almost built in. So many of the newer cars have that capability, and it's the OEMs and the manufacturers and the service network now that are starting to really tap into that and do a lot better. I'll tell you a quick story. I have a friend who is a manufacturer's rep for Rolls-Royce, and they had a new vehicle out, and he was at a dealership near me. He's like, oh, you've got to come check this out. So we were out doing a drive in this Rolls-Royce. It was a fantastic car, quite expensive. But a light went on, and some type of warning light. This car only had a few thousand miles, and immediately a voice comes over and says, hey, we've noticed your check engine light came on. There's no big worry here. Your car is missing a step of its pre-delivery inspection. We'll get that completed at the shop. And so they've got the loop closed right there. And I think that's going to become more common with even basic cars.
Absolutely, Tim, absolutely. I mean, I also would like to comment on that with EVs coming into the scene, this will become more and more common when you can actually talk to your cars and your cars can talk to us, talk about what might be going on with the internals of a car, and then it should be able to not really require you to be able to communicate to the service center. And EVs, the electronic system should be able to through technology should be able to communicate with the service center, book an appointment, and see if it can be resolved. I mean, maybe because with EVs, service would become extremely important, and I am looking forward to the days when a service center can possibly get the car picked up from the customer's location, or even send technicians to the customer's location to resolve the problem, because they are completely aware of the problem and they have the right context to be able to quickly resolve the problem that a car might be having. And I believe EVs will definitely push the space towards digitization and experience much more rapidly than what we have seen in the past.
No, I agree. And the other phenomenon we're seeing is there is some even over the airwaves repairs that can be done, whether if it's a program related issue that needs to be fixed. So in some cases it can be done while the car is in the driveway remotely via satellite, and that's pretty impressive. But you bring up the technician visiting the customer, and it's interesting, especially in the EV space. We've had conversations with a couple of smaller EV providers that are wanting to go to market, and because we have a network and a distribution, we're kind of an accelerator for a company like that. And the issue that they're looking at is, okay, we have these EVs. It's kind of a different technology with different parts, and we're a startup, and so it's going to take us a while before we have critical mass of cars that makes sense to have somebody invest in a building to service those cars in a market. So one in particular we were dealing with had developed this mobile network, basically EV servicing trucks that would essentially cover a region and cover their units in operation. So I think there's a lot of thought, innovative thought going into how to service a growth curve of EVs, went from the small volume stage to when ultimately, it appears that this could become a very significant chunk of the market. So, there's all kinds of innovative models going on. The issue that the startups that we're seeing have is largely funding. I mean, the biggest ones, like say Rivian here in the U.S., have partnerships with Amazon and Ford, and are funded quite well, and so that they're able to invest in this service technology. The startups are looking for ways to do it cost effectively and nimbly, But then, for them, it's the challenge of getting the funding.
Oh, absolutely. Tim, we are looking forward to tie-ups between Oreo and car manufacturers to really provide that kind of service to smaller startups to really drive through the innovation in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
By the way, Tim, while we are of course talking about spare parts and cars and automobiles, a large part of your business, or maybe a new direction of your business, is getting in towards supply chain, third-party logistics, and other such ancillary services. I wanted to understand what is the at what speed you are moving on towards this, and what kind of digitization and growth prospects do you see for this particular industry and line of business for Oreo to see?
So our parent company is in Sweden. They're headquartered just south of Stockholm, and the old Saab complex is quite large. And so a little while ago, we opened up a logistics division and started developing a logistics park just south of Stockholm. And the timing really couldn't have been better, because as probably most people know, the supply chain after post-COVID has somewhat exploded with the trend that you're talking about, a lot more digital shopping, a lot more e-commerce happening, but also, demand levels have skyrocketed, supply levels have been challenged, and that's really left the logistics industry in quite a capacity issue. And so, our business there involves both warehousing and transportation, and it's been developing I think at about last year it was about a 20% growth, but we're looking to accelerate that. We've recently got a new owner. I'm not sure if you knew, but Oreo, for the first 10 years of this company, was owned by the Swedish government. And while they're quite a stable owner, they're maybe not as aggressive as a private industry. And we were recently bought by a company called Hedin Mobility Group, who's quite a large automotive company, distribution, retail, parts. And I think their turnover is going to be about 5 billion euros this year. So quite a sizable and aggressive company. They've grown every year since they've started, and they've grown their profitability. So it's exciting for us. It's a new relationship to have this new owner, but we're looking to take some of the logistics business, hopefully, and other aspects of their business, and be their foothold here in North America to help grow those businesses as well.
Tim, would that mean that Oreo would be competing with new startups in that space, like maybe Flexport or Budbee, which is a Swedish-based company, or ShipBob, which are third-party logistics providers to a lot of e-commerce companies? Are you going to be in the same space as some of these companies?
I think we're in more of a 3PL type space, where we're gonna stock, pick, pack, and ship, but we also manage transportation as well. So yeah, in some respects we are, but now with this new owner, there's also a much larger automotive business too that Oreo as a member of that family can help facilitate. And so there's a lot of services I think we can provide also to the new owner.
Yeah, and I would assume that whatever technology Oreo itself has built over last many years to facilitate the spare parts distribution business can be immediately put to use with this expansion and a new acquisition of Oreo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think just one last, small kind of a, point that I would like to touch upon, since we were speaking about it in the beginning, about the global certain crisis, or maybe certain external factors which are beyond of our control, like the pandemics and the war. Um, just what are your thoughts on how on digitization that can what kind of digitization do you see can help future proof against future proof itself against similar disruptions in the future in terms of supply chains, basically?
Yeah, the recent years have been quite interesting, I think, in terms of supply chain strategy, in that there had been a very large focus on efficiency, on just in time, on deep partnerships. And, I think a lot of those are being rethought now. And because, we know geography now in the supply chain can be a limiting factor. Not only in the fact of, say, like we're in China, we had, the shutdown of the country, which impacted a lot of people. In Europe, we had similar things, but now the conflict, but also just the time in which it takes to get things when shipping containers, for example, now are in very short supply. So getting a container to ship something in, and then getting a ship to put that container on, has become quite challenging. And you have companies like Costco who decided, okay, we're not going to deal with it anymore. They created their own. They bought a bunch of ships. They have so now we're buying shipping from Costco. So you have that type of vertical integration going on, but you have people rethinking the geography. And so Honda just announced that they're trying to get out of Chinese supply chain for the most part because of the inherent issues there. But that's being rethought everywhere. So it makes geography more of a consideration than it used to be. It makes time to ship parts more of a consideration than it used to be. So I think a couple of things we'll see there. One, through digitalization, the advances that are being made in 3D printing, for example, can help eliminate geographical barriers. And we've started on a portfolio of 3D printed parts. For us, it makes sense because with smaller runs, 3D printing can be a much more efficient than tooling and creating a production facility. But we've started a portfolio of 3D printed parts. The benefit of that is that they can be 3D printed locally as well. But you also see, within the U.S., for example, there's a huge effort to localize microchip production, to localize EV battery production. And I think you're going to see people doing that more and more, relying on local supply chain, which, is considered more dependable and less risky, both in geographical risk and then risk of getting the product over. So I think you'll see a lot of digital innovations around how do we risk-proof our supply chain, localize it, mitigate transportation risks, those types of things.
Definitely, definitely. Looking forward to these innovations. So, yeah, a lot of interesting insights on the automotive parts, on logistics, on EVs, and towards a more sustainable future. So here we come to end of another very amazing podcast. I had a wonderful time interacting with both of you. On that note, thank you so much, Tim, for taking the time to join us on this episode of the Mantra podcast and sharing such amazing, valuable insights on the American and the global automotive and logistics market.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Same here.
Thank you, Divya.
Thank you, Parag, as well, for participating in this session and sharing your perspective from the digital experience point of view as well. It was indeed an amazing session. I hope, to continue. I would have loved to continue interacting with both of you. But yeah, we are here. So here ends the fifth episode, and hope all of you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more such insightful conversations with industry experts See you soon. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, Divya.